Hey guys, it's Emac here. Today I'm going to talk about AWS Migration Plan and how to migrate your existing infrastructure to Amazon. Of course, we all know that it is necessary to leverage cloud platforms because companies are so competitive now these days. They're innovating so fast. We just don't have time, to patch servers, install antiviruses, backup databases, and things like that. So we need to get ready and get our hand dirty and start our migration process as soon as possible. So imagine you work for a company or you're consulting a company, you want to start the migration plan. And how do we do it? The first thing you need to do, you need to understand the environment that you're working with. You need to know how many applications, how many databases, what's connected to what, who has access to what. So basically have a clear understanding about your setup and environment, the existing one on-prem. Majority of the companies, they start with a hybrid model where you connect your on-prem data center to Amazon. It's not like moving everything overnight to cloud. It just doesn't work that way. It's a process. You do it over months or even years. So you start with something very small, and then you expand your cloud operation to achieve hopefully one day 100% cloud operation. If you're in a startup, of course you have the option to start with cloud 100%, but we're talking in this case about companies that have like local servers, local applications, and local databases, and now decide to have the migration and move to cloud. So the first thing, as I mentioned, you need to have a good understanding about your existing setup, right? Security policies and all the VPN tunnels, how many servers, what type of servers, what's the memory, and you need to find out two specific number for every single service or application that you want to migrate. One is RTO, one is RPO. Recovery time objective. Your manager says, hey, your service can go down for an hour, not more than that. So this means your RTO is an hour. And same manager says, hey, you can lose, 1 day worth of data, right? Not more than that. So then that means your RPO, recovery point objective, is 1 day. You can lose 1 day, not more than that. So you need to understand those two numbers before doing any migration, because you'll end up migrating the service to the wrong architecture, and your manager will be mad. Hey, we lost data, we're down. This is now a big trouble. So make sure before you do any migration, you find out from a business owner or the manager in charge, or if you are the manager, understand your business need and pick the right number for your RTO and RPO. If you need a storage class that it's recoverable immediately, don't go for Glacier, because Glacier is going to take some time to recover your data from Amazon. So make sure you have a good understanding about those two numbers. Once you have those ready, put everything in a diagram in a nice shape, and do all the calculation, and go to the meeting with your colleagues and the business owner and the manager in charge, and make sure everyone is on board. Sign that migration plan. Hey, these are the things that we're going to do. We're going to see a charge of this much for the company every month. This is how it works. This is how we can make it better. These are the things that I recommend to save money. So walk them through pros and cons. You are an architect. You are migrating the entire infrastructure for a system to cloud. You need to make sure everyone is comfortable with your plan, right? So now you are set, and you can start actually the migration plan. But how do we start? So 100% of the companies, and my understanding and my knowledge, they start with hybrid architecture. It means you have your own on-prem data center, but you use cloud, you leverage cloud as an extension, as basically a new data center, and you connect these two center to each other so they can communicate and send and receive data. But the long-term goal is to basically offload from your on-prem and send to the cloud, so you can have a better high availability and spending more time on your core business instead of maintaining and buying hardware and installing those and managing those systems. So every migration starts with connectivity, right? You need to connect your data center, to of course, Amazon Cloud. You have two options for that. The first one is a VPN, which I'm going to have a separate video walk you through all the steps that you need to connect your on-prem to AWS. Very simple, very easy. And I'll walk you through that. Don't worry about it. For now, we're going to understand just the model. If you look at the big picture, so you have VPN tunnels you can establish over internet. Remember, those are public VPN tunnels, encrypted tunnels over internet. You can use a dual connection or basically resilient VPN tunnels if you use high availability devices for your VPN tunnel. And then if one goes down, the other one stays alive, so you can use it and you won't lose connectivity. Of course, you need a good, solid internet connection. And you can actually start communicating with your cloud infrastructure once you have that VPN, over the public internet established between your cloud and on-prem data center. So the first option, it's very simple. The second one is called Direct Connect. Direct Connect is a dedicated connection between you and AWS by a third party, which basically in their facility, they give you a direct cable from Amazon that connects your data center to Amazon data center. But of course, the cost is high for Direct Connect, but it's very consistent. And of course, in the long run, if you're a big corporate, you're moving a lot of data around, it's more cost effective. So you can actually save money. It is an expensive service. If you have, if it's feasible for your business, then in the long run, it's going to save you money, and it's as far as cost. Because some people, they look at the cost of a direct and it's like, oh, this is cost too much. But if you compare it in the long run, it's more beneficial to use Direct Connect if you have a big operation and a big company. If you need consistent connection, you cannot, lose connection, then of course Direct Connect is another, route to go. So we learned about VPN, how to connect our data center, and how to send and receive data to our cloud via internet and private connection through Direct Connect. So the next step is basically start thinking about your network design and start designing your VPC and basically subnets. That's the place you design your server room in the cloud. You start with VPC, virtual private cloud. Instead of that, you have subnets, and you need to have a good understanding about availability zones, region, and of course, subnets. And what type of IP range you're going to use, what's your network architecture, how many subnets you're going to have, which ones are public, which ones are private. So these are the things that you need to understand before you're starting the process. Once you have that VPC established, basically now you have a server room running on Amazon side, which is communicating with your on-prem data center that you are running at your own company. So this is the moment that you can actually now start the migration process for applications, databases, and other things. So let's say you want to migrate an application. Let's start with application. In applications, the first thing you want to look at is the cost of rewriting the application to a modern application. So sometimes we have to migrate the application. It's from 15 years ago, written in PHP, and it's huge application, tightly coupled to machine. If you want to migrate that machine, it's going to be a lot of work. It's not going to give you scalability that you need. So one way would be thinking about redoing that application in modern applications, right? I don't know, Angular, Node, Spring Boot, even converting it to microservices. We're going to have separate videos for microservices and all those different topics. But for now, I want to tell you that maybe rewriting the application is an option. You want to make sure you study all these routes, right? You might end up, hey, no, we're not going to rewrite this. This is not cost effective. It's going to take 6 months. We're just going to go ahead and migrate this legacy application for now. So that's an application side. You might have a sales website that is static and runs some JavaScript codes in order to interact with user, but there's not much backend processing. So in order to migrate these type of applications, you don't need to have a dedicated server paying for it 24/7 hours, 365 to keep it live. You can just simply move the static website to S3, which is a storage in Amazon, and then serve it as a public website to the entire world without maintaining any server. Very cost effective, super easy to set up. So my point here is before actually acting on your migration plan, you need to study the pros and cons of different services and see which one is more cost effective and provides the availability and scalability that you're looking for. So sometimes refactoring code, redesigning part of the code might actually go a long way. Make sure you consider all those routes and options, rewriting or even refactoring, in order to make the application more cloud friendly. Because some applications are not cloud friendly; they're tightly coupled to a specific setup, Windows application, and you cannot even change a single IP. You cannot change a library. So those are the applications that they're a little bit tricky. Now I'm going to walk you through those, migration plan. That now you have a better understanding about it. Let's imagine you want to migrate a server. So the way you want to do it, if it's a Windows server, of course, and let's say you have a bunch of applications, on it, and if something happens to that server, reinstalling all those services and applications and configuring them, then getting them to a point that is reliable for production, grade code, or to run to serve traffic to public, you need to spend a lot of time. In order to prevent that, one way will be basically creating an Amazon machine image, which is AMI, pre-baked AMIs, which basically you start the machine, you install all the libraries, you do a lot of work, but when you're done, when you're in a state that, okay, this machine is ready to go live, once I have the code downloaded on it, the application web server, it's ready to serve the traffic. So you get the machine to that point, and then you create a snapshot from that machine. Well, if something happens to that machine, you have a final image. It's called golden image that you can start, a machine off of, and go back to the business in seconds. So all those applications that need specific requirements, like let's say you're working with a very specific type of POS, point of sales, application. It's a legacy application. You cannot change it. It's everywhere in the corporate. It's really costly to migrate to a new service. You have to deal with it, right? You will see those cases. So in that specific case, build the custom AMI. If you need a specific IP, you can use Elastic Network Interface and attach it to that. You can use EBS volumes to have the data stored on it. You don't want to keep those in temporary hard drives, because if you lose the machine, if something goes wrong in hypervisor, your machine will be rebooted. You're going to lose everything. So make sure you use EBS volumes and set up a Python script or PowerShell to get EBS snapshots every hour. If your RPO is 2 hours, what you can do, you can basically initiate a command with Lambda, schedule task, or we're going to go through all those different routes in different videos, not now, but keep it in your mind that you can initiate command to take automatic backup, automatic snapshot of your volume. So if you do it every half an hour, then it means you can recover if something happens and go back to the half an hour back. So those are the applications. The last ones are databases. If you're migrating database, Amazon actually offers a lot of database migration tools, and you can use. There's a lot of techniques you can do. SQL dump and basically get the data synced to the cloud side. But before actually starting that process, what you want to do, you need to find out if you need access to the underlying operating system that's running your database or not. Well, let's say you're running an application, you don't care about the operating system. You have to maintain it because it's in your data center, right? You have to update the Windows, you have to patch it, you have to take care of it. You have to do the backups because it is your server. But you don't actually need the access to the machine that it's running the database. You just need the database. If that's the case, make sure you use managed services, right? Managed databases. What happens once you use managed services, Amazon handles all the patching, database backup, maintenance, everything for you. What you're interested in is just the database. You want to connect to it, save data, and restore data from it, right? So definitely your application or your programmers, they definitely need access to the operating system because they need to do some, I/O or writing some files, reading some files from the hard drive. Then definitely you need to consider an EC2 machine, or basically a server that comes with the database license, for example, SQL Server. Well, we talked about all the tools. Of course, during migration, I found two specific tools which is I'm very comfortable with. One of them is Python, one of them is PowerShell. You want to have a good scripting skills, and working with command line should be your daily thing, because it's going to help you a lot during the migration. You can automate a lot of tasks and basically use them in order to facilitate your migration. So use tags and resource groups everywhere, right? Tag everything, because when it comes down to cost, when you have a little bit complex environment, it's really hard to identify the problems if you don't have everything tagged well, right? So make sure you have a good tagging strategy. For example, tag all the servers with the company name, the product name, the team. For example, this is for team IT, this is for this specific project, this hard drive. And when you're looking at your costs, you can definitely have a good understanding about your spending and how you can save on the money side. If you're building a file server, right, this is a very common practice. I've done it. And you have two options. One option would be, if you want to expand your storage, local storage. Let's say you're running out of space. Let's say you have, 20 terabytes, local storage, 30 terabytes, 100, whatever it is, and it's not enough. You're planning to upgrade it or get a new one. So AWS Storage Gateway is probably the best option for you at this time in a hybrid model. It uses a buffer, and basically it's a virtual machine. You set it up on the AWS side. You say, I want to, have a storage gateway, cached or a volume, and then basically you download the virtual machine. Let's say for Hyper-V on your Windows machine, you import the virtual machine, and it's a very easy command line. They have like 6, 7, 8, 10 steps. You go through and set up the IP as a virtual machine on your network, and then once you set it up, that machine will automatically start sending data to cloud, and basically uses S3 as a backend to store your backups. Or if you're using cached, basically we'll keep all the most recent files locally, and we'll send all of the other files to the cloud. So this is a very common practice, and it works really, really well. I've done it with VPN, Storage Gateway, and basically the way you connect to your local network, once you have that VM running in your Hyper-V, then you add an iSCSI card to your Windows and initiate it, and it becomes like a network drive. You can share it across the user. So you just created a file server with unlimited amount of space you want. If you want 100 terabytes, you can just create it and connect it to it. Of course, there are limitations into number and the maximum size. I'll let you go through it. But the theory that I can give you right now is this is a great strategy to expand your storage, network storage. The second one would be basically to running a file server and attaching an EBS volume and snapshot that EBS volume on a daily basis and hourly basis, however you like it. But if you're running on storage volume, which is a great option, I recommend. That's what I've done. And your users, they start writing information, reading information to that iSCSI card, and that iSCSI card will send the data through a buffer to AWS, right? And what happens, let's say in case of disaster, let's say you lose that VM, what you can do, you have a snapshot of that volume. You can just create an EBS volume from that snapshot and attach it to any machine. And since you have a VPN tunnel, that drive becomes available immediately after disaster. So this is a real life example of expanding your local storage by using Amazon Storage Gateway. So if you're using, if you have a CDCI pipeline, which we're going to have a separate video on CDCI, how to set it up with using Amazon Code Build, Code Pipeline, and AWS Code Commit. I'm going to walk you through all these steps, how to set it up. But basically, if you are delivering software to production, CDCI, continuous integration and continuous delivery, will basically creates a pipeline where you can test, build, and deploy your code in a very consistent manner to your production environment. That's definitely you can use to basically innovate faster and deliver to the production. Don't forget to tag your resources. Have a good understanding about all the storage options that you have available in AWS, from Glacier to infrequent access to normal S3. You need to understand you cannot install, for example, databases on S3. S3 is an object storage. On the other side, you have EBS volumes, which are block-based storage. You can have actually I/O operation. You can install databases on it. So these are the things that you need to think about, before starting the migration. Have a good understanding about your environment. Come up with the plan. Build the VPN tunnel and build your VPC. Once you have the VPC and VPN tunnel created, then it means you are at the stage that you can actually launch a new server, migrate a database, or run an application. And in order to do that, you have to look into the nature of the application that you're about to migrate or server. Do I need to create custom AMI? Do I need to just go ahead and launch a fresh Windows and download my application? Can I run this somewhere else? Can I move it to S3 instead of using a server? So make sure you go through all the pros and cons. And I hope this was helpful. We're going to have in-depth training about code commit and CDCI on AWS. I'm going to have a separate live tutorial on Storage Gateway, on migrating servers. Leave any comments below, and until next time, bye.